Welcome to this live all about improving your therapeutic skills as a hypnotist or even a coach if you are in that field as well. So today I'm going to answer three main questions that have to do with the therapeutic effect of our sessions. And so inside the conversational hypnosis world, although the name is in hypnosis, we do not focus on hypnosis. We focus on the therapeutic results. And these three questions here were asked, so let us answer them. The first one is, do you take client histories and how thorough does it need to be? So, I used to take client histories, especially when I was first traditionally trained in hypnosis. And the reason for that was that because that's what we were told to do. And over time, as I evolved in my practice, I ended up not needing them, just because of the also very unique niche that I worked with. I didn't really work with any health issues initially, and back then. So I didn't need to take histories. And even when I did, what I did take were just pretty much the before and after transformation that my clients wanted. The thing to be mindful of when you are taking histories, especially if you're taking medical history and medications, do you know what to do with them? Meaning there's legalities around keeping that information because they're health related information, as well as do you need to know what medications your clients are on, right? That is the history of it. And you can get into some pretty tricky territory learning or putting that into your forms, especially if you're not going to address things like that in your hypnosis practice. So those are the things you want to be mindful of. And that's why taking a thorough history plus taking a thorough history anyway is not going to be as helpful within your sessions because you're not going to fix the symptoms anyway. Even if, a client is in blood pressure meds or on blood pressure meds or in diabetes meds, or they're in a statin for their cholesterol or something, uh, how relevant is that truly to the work that you're doing? So you want to ask yourself that. And again, you don't want to get into some really deep shit that you don't want to deal with, right? So the important thing when you are in your sessions, especially beforehand, and what you want to ask your clients as a sort of screening tool is the actual things that they need to do or have before or after, like where are they now? What problem are they having? And what the results they have after. What have they tried? Those are the main things that you really want to know with your clients, not the little menial things like what street do they grow up in and what was their childhood like in those sessions, because they may or may not be relevant to what you're working on. So, long story short, I kept it very, very simple. My histories were very simple. They only contained maybe 10 questions. Um, and over time, I actually didn't ask that many questions, maybe like six or so questions of where are you now? What have you tried? How is this affecting your life? Those are the types of questions that I asked and what type of results they want and how motivated they are for the change. That is very, very important. So that was to the extent of my history. I didn't need to. And even if I were to jump into more a health aspect now, which I could definitely can, I still wouldn't overly ask them about that particular history, just the things that they've tried, because again, you don't want to get into some deep shit with medications and stuff that is not in your scope, right? So know your scope. And if it's not in your scope, don't ask. Don't put yourself into that sticky situation. So that is what I would say. Second question is, how did you stop relying on scripts and start to free flow your sessions? So learning how to get away from scripts um, and techniques was how I learned to free flow. Most of the trainings you'll see, even if you just Google a quick conversational hypnosis, you will learn language patterns which is something that we don't teach inside our trainings, that in and of itself is very scripty. Like, this is the language pattern, you would say. That's not conversational at all. Like, it's based on conversation, but it's actually not the casual conversation as if you would with your friend or family. That is really the casualness that we strive for inside our conversational hypnosis trainings. And learning how to do that is a skill set, right? It's not a technique set. It is not, I'm not going to give you a list of shit to memorize. It's principle based. And so that's why it's very active learning. And how I stopped relying on it was learning how the principles worked, learning actually how to ask the questions, learning what to look for when a client answers, knowing how to tell if the session worked, knowing how to tell if the problem has been resolved, and knowing the very important aftermath of what happens in the sessions and learning the best care for the clients after that. That was how I knew. And these things are not very hard. As a matter of fact, when you learn it, it's very much like, yeah, I already know these things, because conversational hypnosis really gets us back into our natural curiosity as human beings. We tend to lose this when we grow up, and we tend to lose this because we are told that this is how it works when it comes to working with clients. But we've had friends or family before that we've talked to, and we can even get a therapeutic effect from that. And did we use our techniques before we even got into the hypnosis world? Like, imagine, like, when you were in your early 20s, you were in your early 20s and your best friend just broke up with someone, and how did you talk to them, right? And did they feel better? And if they did, you didn't know language patterns or scripts or techniques back then. You relied on very basic human principles, which is really what we teach inside our conversational hypnosis training. And it sounds very easy, but it is not. This is one of the hardest things because there's a lot to unlearn, a lot of conclusions from other trainers and gurus that you want to unlearn. And this is how you would start to free flow your sessions. And inside the free flowing sessions class that I host every week, what we do is practice the principle of asking questions over and over and over again and utilizing what our clients are telling us, because the client becomes the script, the client becomes the technique. It is not a client comes to us and we look for the technique for the client. A client comes to us and we use them as a technique or as script. They become the script, they become the technique, which just makes fucking sense, right? That's how it's supposed to be. But we did not learn this. We learned that, okay, someone comes in, it is a smoking session, and they are saying that they have these two parts, wanting to smoke and not wanting to smoke. And then there's this NLP technique that's really, really good for this, right? Let's do the parts integration. Let's just do all of that shit. Because we have learned it. So client is right there, and we're like, okay, let's grab something else from what I've learned over here, put it into here. Whereas we completely shift that and change that in conversational hypnosis, and we just go, client is here, focus is here. They gave me these two parts. Let them deal with it. Let them do whatever they need to do with it. Maybe they don't need to do this with these two parts. Maybe they need to like make it sparkle and like or click on it, and then both of them will go away and integrate itself. We don't know that, right? Because we don't know the inner workings of our clients' minds. They do. So it's a highly different approach. And the next one is coming up next week, by the way, after Easter. So if you want to join that, it is very fun. Comment below free flowing sessions, and I'll send you to the link to register. It is free to go to, and the replay will be available for you to watch in case you can't make it live. So comment below free flowing sessions, and I will give you the link to have that opportunity to actually attend and start free flowing your sessions. Last one. How would you approach a potential client with alcohol dependence? This is a good one. And this is something that I don't think a lot of people realize how important this is. So Alcohol dependence, especially if you're working with clients who are still currently drinking and they want to stop, you want to make sure that they're supported physically in terms of their detoxing. And I can go in like a 20-minute rant with regards to this. The truth of the matter is, when someone is a heavy drinker and you go into hypnosis, I'm not saying that hypnosis can't work. As a matter of fact, it definitely can work, especially conversational hypnosis for alcohol dependence. If someone was a heavy drinker and most people, if not all people, underreport their drinking. So people might say just one glass of wine a day, and it's a lot more than that. FYI. This is from nursing experience and tons, working with tons and tons, like hundreds and hundreds of people who have withdrawn from alcohol, like underreported. There are physical symptoms of alcohol withdrawal in which the client absolutely needs to be supported physically. So there are these physical symptoms are quite dangerous if they are not addressed. So if someone is drinking a bottle of wine per day and they go to zero and they've drank bottle of wine for years, going from that to zero, their body is going to have a huge homeostatic, chaotic event happening, and the detoxing from that can lead to things like seizures or even death. Alcohol is one of the things that when you do withdraw can lead to death. So very, very important. This is not a fear-mongering thing. This is a fact. And so this is what you want to address. If you want to work with people with alcohol dependence, you want to have this in mind. You want to ensure that this client is supported in terms of their detox. Are they going to a medical detox facility? Right? Because they are going to be the ones who are going to support their their physical withdrawal from alcohol. And also, is this the type of do you have experience in this? Because I actually do not recommend anyone going for alcohol dependence just because you want to be really mindful of the detoxing, especially if you're wanting to help clients that are currently drinking and want to stop. Um, so that is how you want to approach it. But if someone were to come to me and say, "Hey, I drink wine a day, I want to stop," I do want to ask about really, like, is that all? And also have them ask them what happens when they stop drinking. What are the symptoms they're having? What are the withdrawal symptoms they're having? And then if they are saying red flaggy things like, yeah, I get the shakes, I hallucinate, I do all of these things, I would not take that client on. However, if it is a client who, have physically done the detox part and are now wanting more help with the emotional and psychological part of it, making sure that they stay sober, then definitely 100% worth the conversation. Because then you don't have the risk of those physical detox symptoms to actually happen. So that is how I would approach a client with alcohol dependence. So I hope that helped. And free flowing sessions and improving your therapeutic skills isn't really just about learning hypnosis, right? That is the very, very small thing. It's not about memorizing the technique. It's all the things that I talked about today, right? It's learning what type of information to look for with your clients at the beginning of their journey, even at the consult call, what to do with that, and then what to do inside the sessions so that you completely are present with your client instead of thinking what type of technique do I use? Do I have them dissociate, or do I have them do the swish pattern? Do I have them do the quick phobia cure? Like it's not about that. It's about just paying attention to the client. It's not about memorizing the script because it sounds good and knowing what metaphors to use so I sound good. And then their unconscious mind is is flourishing with the words that I say, like, that's not it. It's really about using your client's words, which you won't know until you sit your ass down in front of them. And this is what we'll talk about inside the free flowing hypnosis event. Make sure you comment below free flowing hypnosis if you want to attend that event. You're more than welcome to come. And last but not the least, alcohol dependence. Make sure that they are physically supported in terms of their detoxing if they are in the position of wanting to stop. And at the same time, you want to make sure that this is a place where you have knowledge about, not just maybe you've done that for yourself, but other types of training, mostly for the physical aspect of it, because it can get quite dangerous if your client detoxes unsupported. So I hope this helped, and I will see you soon. Let's make a massive impact together, one conversation at a time.